probably since 14, 15 years old, I always knew I was going to do something with social media. And this is the first year that I've kind of thought, okay, if I don't do YouTube and social media forever, like what would I do? And it's the first year that I started kind of not knowing what my future might exactly look like. With getting a new job, with the breakup and everything, I was trying to fight that gut feeling for so long because I didn't want it to be true. It'd be so much easier to just stay and keep doing what I was doing. It's really tough to initiate that kind of change in not only your life, but also another person's. Yeah. And eventually I was just like, okay, I can't stop like fighting this feeling inside me, this gut feeling. Yeah. And I find like I have to do something about it.
Hannah, what's up?
Hi, Lily.
Hi, welcome back to the pod.
Thank you. Welcome back to Nashville.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're a reoccurring guest.
Yes.
I want to say this is your third.
I think so. At least third.
Yeah. But second in a year, which is cool.
I know. I feel so honored.
Do you feel like, though, that there's a new version of you sitting here today?
Absolutely. When you asked me to come back on, I know I told you, I said this will be so interesting because I feel like my life's very different now than it was in January of 2024. So it'll be a nice like bookends to the year to kind of reflect and I know talk about all the changes that can happen in a year in your 20s.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And I even think about how much has changed in my life in the past year. And I think we're both, I mean, you're 25, right?
Yes.
Okay. We're both at that pivotal age where things truly can change in like the blink of an eye. And I mean, for the better, for the worse.
Yeah.
And so I would love to just talk all about that today and just like adapting to change, being okay with like the fluidity of your 20s and not letting, I have there's such a push and pull for me, at least between what I should do versus what I know I'm like made to do.
Definitely.
Versus like finding the flow or finding like my own flow versus like what the world tells me to do. And so I don't know, where do you kind of stand with that? Because I know you're in a very like you've made some transitions, some changes lately.
Yeah. So I'll explain kind of what I'm talking about when I say my life's very different. When I came on in January, I was fully self-employed. So I've always done like YouTube and social media content creation. If you haven't seen me in any of the other episodes, just to give you a little background. And I also have a stationery brand called Dream Daily. And I graduated college about 2 years ago and just started right away, like being full-time self-employed. Loved it. But just towards the end of like last year, I was kind of feeling like there needed to be some shifts in my life, professionally and personally. And I feel like I went into the new year. I'm normally so excited at the start of the year. You and I are like that, where we just get really motivated at the beginning of the year. But honestly, at the beginning of this year, I was feeling like, okay, I feel like it's going to be a tough year in the sense of it's really going to shape me and like things in my life are going to change. And it's scary to think about that. But I kind of went into the year with that mindset. And so what happened along the course of the year is, one, I went through a tough breakup with my boyfriend of 4 years in like late spring, early summer. And that was like a big transition, just especially being in our 20s. I feel like a lot of talk about marriage and stuff like that. And so it kind of definitely changes like that personal aspect of your life when you get out of a long-term relationship. And then I also took a part-time job, still in content creation, but just, again, wanted to try something new with career-wise this summer. And so those were kind of the two big changes that have really made me feel like my life is in a totally different position now than it was at the beginning of the year. And I've learned a lot through both of those big changes, which I'm excited to chat through and stuff. But kind of going back to what you're talking about, the fluidity of like, should I do this? Should I do that? Like, what will other people think of me? I was thinking a lot about that, like throughout these decisions, like what is the public going to think? What is my family? What are my friends going to think? And it's easy to let those outside voices and opinions that you think people are going to have, they may not even have those opinions when you actually make those big life changes, but it's easy to make those, like what you think people are going to say, influence your life decisions. But at the end of the day, it's like your life. And I just thought, I know this is going to be what's best for me and maybe in my future. And even though it maybe doesn't feel better right now, it will feel better in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Did those two things happen like back to back almost?
Pretty close, actually. So we broke up end of April, beginning of May. And then actually like the second week of May is when I received that email with the job opportunity to do
Wow.
to run a TikTok for a local brand here in Nashville. And I definitely think that was a God thing, because post breakup it was hard to work, honestly, like for myself. It was because you have to be so self-disciplined and self-motivated when you work for yourself full time. And I just did not feel creative. I did not want to, like, it was hard to be focused on work. And I had to be, because like that's my living.
You gotta live. Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually think it was definitely a God thing, this job opportunity that opened up, because I'm now 25 hours a week in an office with other people. And so especially like this summer, it was really nice on those days when I was feeling emotional or still feeling upset or something, to be able to like get my mind off of that and off of myself and off of my own life and towards a different company that I don't own, that's not my personal brand, that I can just focus on and like problem solve with other people. It was really good for my mental health to like add that other job.
Yeah, I would imagine that like being able to just like step out of like what you used to know, like especially like dating someone, like I would imagine like he was involved in some degree, so to like just fully dive into something new would be like a healthy distraction.
Yeah, and at first, it's weird because I started this new job and now there was like this whole new part of my life that he knew nothing about. And I'm like, that's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
And then it made me realize, oh, there's so many parts of his life that now I know nothing about. And so that was also like one of the hard parts, I guess, of starting something new.
Yeah.
But it definitely has been a great outlet for me the past 4 or 5 months that I've been there.
Yeah, there was like this song that I heard one time and it was like, I forget all the lyrics in it. I don't know if it applies to this situation totally, but it was like she's just like listing off all these things that like she does now that like he doesn't know about. Like, you'll never see my new apartment. You'll never know that like I started drinking red wine. And it's just, I was like, that is so sad. Like, that's like the true like sad reality of a breakup, is you're like, oh my gosh, you'll never know like the person that I'm becoming, especially in your 20s, because things change so much. So for someone going through a breakup, what would you tell them?
Oh, I feel like it depends so much on how the breakup went, how the relationship was, but I would love to speak to my situation because it's one that I don't hear as much. I feel like we hear the word breakup and it's like, oh, immediately public enemy number one, like it's how it becomes, like everyone's against the ex and, talking trash about the ex and all, and that's just like how my relationships haven't been. And this one specifically, it wasn't easy by any means, but it was definitely like, I want to still be on good terms with him and everything. And also speak from the point of like it being like a non-toxic relationship in any way. Like everything was great. It really just came down to our futures and seeing a different future for myself. And I feel like that kind of breakup where there's nothing you can point to like explicitly and say like, oh, he messed up, she messed up, like this is why they broke up. It makes it harder sometimes because you kind of just have to walk away even when there's still maybe feelings there.
Yeah, that's I dated a guy in my early 20s and we dated for like a while. And it was the same thing. It was just like we have two different futures and like two different, I don't know, like, because you learn so much about yourself in such a short amount of time. I would imagine even like the past 6 months of you like getting this job, like doing all these other things, you just learn so much about yourself. And like, I never knew this version of myself and now it doesn't fit. That's what scares me about future relationships is I'm like, I've changed so much in the past 5 years. Well, like my brain's about to stop developing because I'm about to turn 25. So like my frontal lobe will probably be fully developed soon. Hopefully I'll stop changing my mind so often. But I'm like, dang, what if I get into a relationship and keep changing my mind? Like this person has to keep up with me. That's terrifying.
It is terrifying. But I think that's a good like pointer to if you're with the right person. It's like if you're growing together. And it's, I think that's a good way to see like, oh, are we growing together in this? Okay, can we grow long-term together? Because for me, it was something that I just had to decide, like, there's no perfect time. So if you're thinking of breaking up with someone or that's maybe been going over in your head for a while, I've been there. It's so tough and there's never a good time. But sometimes you just have to think not only about your future, but the other person's as well. And if you feel like they're not the right person for you, you're not the right person for them, and you owe it to them to allow them the chance to look for their future partner. So it's so tough. Like, and so going back to your question about the advice, I feel like I had a really healthy breakup in the sense of as soon as it ended, I really tried to like feel the emotions and not push it away. Like I knew it was going to be tough. It was very tough. And so like I put things in place to try to help me through that. Like, obviously everyone tells you like surround yourself with friends and family, and I'm so thankful my friends and family are just the best and the most supportive, and just doing things that I liked and trying new things has also been a huge way to like distract yourself in a good way. I think there's a level of distraction, like you want to feel the feelings but also like get out there.
You can't stay there. Like, you gotta feel them, but like work through them and not just like marinate in like the sadness.
Exactly. So like this summer, fall, like I joined my church's softball league, which I haven't played softball since I was in middle school, but that was just something I remember loving to do. And I was like, hey, this will be so fun to meet new people, like get involved with my church, and then do something that, you know, I didn't used to do with him, but I think I would enjoy. Or I want to go also back to ballet classes this winter, which I also did when I was younger. So just like finding things that you used to love to do that maybe you took a break from because life gets so busy with work and relationships. And I realized, okay, I took out this one big part of my life. I have a little bit of space. Let me fill it with something that's going to make me feel great and that really fills my cup and that I love to do. So
yeah, it's like that self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
Okay, so what's like the number one thing? Maybe you don't have like a number one thing, but something that you've learned about yourself that you didn't know like 6 months ago.
Ooh.
If anything, you could say nothing.
So something I've learned since starting this job is that I'm pretty good around new people. And that's something that working for myself and like kind of being in my bubble with my relationship, I didn't have the option to do because I was working alone every day. And then on the weekends, you know, my boyfriend would come up. We would like see our few friends and just like hang out with the two of us. But again, now that I'm in this new job, meeting new people and trying to get out and meet new people in personal life as well, I've gotten to be way more social. And then I've realized that I've missed being social and meeting new people and meeting new personality types and like bringing people together. And so it's been fun to kind of learn that about myself through this. So that's what first comes to mind.
Or you were telling me earlier with your job, you go into the office and you just like make people laugh.
Yeah.
Is that something that like kind of surprised you? Like, do you enjoy going into the office?
I do, because as I was telling you, so I run their TikTok just part-time. I create like in-office content, silly content, and also content around the products. The brands Be Amazing. They're like a supplement company. And so I have like the perfect in between of like working for myself part-time and then also getting to just pop into the office when I want, make my own schedule still. And I get to come in, make silly little TikToks, make people laugh, like give them a break and maybe a stressful day to just laugh and be silly, and then get to go home. So
love it.
It's been really, again, good for like my mental health, my bank account. It's been good overall.
Love it. Okay, so you actually just had a new launch for Dream Daily as well. So while you're doing your new venture, you're also still grinding on Dream Daily, and you released a coffee collection.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So the coffee collection just launched. It is our daily planner and our dreamer journal. So planner and journal in a matching coffee colored linen hardcover. So all of our products have like these linen hardcovers with like gold foiling. And so this is the coffee collection, which actually I had the idea for back in 2021 when I first was about to release the journal, and just like didn't end up going with that color. And then I showed it on TikTok last year and people loved it. They're like, wait, why isn't this brown journal out yet? And I was like, okay, I'll release it in the fall then. So I was kind of planning on this collection to come out in the fall the whole year. So it's been really fun, but it's also been very tough, as you can imagine, to manage what I was doing before full time as now more of a part-time role, and still try to like do as much and be out there as much and on social and creating content. And I create so many videos every week now. It's insane.
I bet by the time you get home from your job, you're like, dang, the last thing I want to do is create content for my own brand. That's the hardest thing. We were actually talking off the mic before about how I just want to outsource the social media now, at least for the podcast, because as easy as it might seem on the outside, like, oh, just open up Instagram and post a picture, it's not that easy, because you got to think of the feed, the strategy. Is this piece of content actually benefiting someone else, or am I just posting a picture?
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, for you, it's like, is this planner teaching, or, you know, is this post about the planner teaching someone about the product, or teaching someone something about helping their life be balanced? Like, is it benefiting the audience versus am I just throwing this post into the void? And so
exactly,
it's tough. It's so tough. How do you, if anything, find a balance between the two?
Yeah, so I know we got coffee this morning, and I was telling you, I'm like, most days I feel like I'm
We did an
drowning.
off the mic catch up because I was like, Hannah, I need to know like the off the mic stuff first.
Yes, there was a lot.
Yeah.
But most days it feels very overwhelming. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
It's only
Love
been
honesty. Yeah, that's perfect.
It's only been a few months of trying to manage now 3 jobs. And so I am still figuring it out. Like, definitely at the start, I was barely doing anything for Dream Daily. It was kind of like, okay, let me do my part-time job. And then content creation is like the next thing. I do a YouTube video every week, brand deals on Instagram, TikTok, wherever. And so that was kind of like my next priority. And then if I had an hour or 2 left in my week, I was like, okay, let me like work on something for Dream Daily. Let me order new boxes. Let me update the website, whatever it may be. Now that it's Q4 going into like the busiest season for retail, I was like, okay, I need to reprioritize just a little bit and give a little bit more time to Dream Daily. I have this launch and one more launch before the end of the year, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So let me figure out where in my week I can give a little bit more time to the stationery business. And so what I've started doing the past few weeks is like Monday morning, first thing, carving out time for Dream Daily, because I'm like, if it doesn't get done first thing Monday morning, it's just going to get pushed to the side the rest of the week because other urgent tasks and things come in. And so what I started doing is giving myself a few hours Monday morning, let me get Dream Daily started. And what's tough with having your own business and doing that kind of thing is there's so much work that has to get done that doesn't right away yield anything. So like with a job, you clock in, okay, you make money, you clock out. But when you're working on your own business, you could work for hours on just like creative concepting your next photo shoot. And it's not like, okay, there's a direct return from that. There is down the line, but there's so many times where I would just push that kind of stuff off, like creative thinking or thinking of new products, like product development, or just updating our email sequence. Like all of that stuff needs to be done, and like it doesn't have to be redone, but it needs to be. And so just making the time at the beginning of the week for that has been super helpful. And then I found that I like to usually go into the part-time job office in the first half of the day, just so that also I can get that done and like feel like I got in, got out, got the content I needed to do, and then I'll kind of go home and work from home the second half of the day, editing that content that I filmed in office, and then also working on my own stuff and just like being cozy at home. It's like helps me kind of reset when I move spaces. So office and then from home, and kind of just allowing myself to take a break in between, and like go for a walk, have a lunch break, and then kind of reset for the second half of the day.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree with like the changing spaces. And I found even with doing podcast stuff, like I work my best editing, like sprawled out on the couch, just relaxing, pillows everywhere, coffee, whatever. And then if I actually need to grind on something like schoolwork, I need to be in a coffee shop, sitting straight up, like with my laptop, super serious. So yeah, I think that that's super helpful. Do you find yourself spread too thin?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think everyone can.
Yeah.
I feel bad saying that because obviously I'm like a single woman in my 20s.
No, but
like
it's natural. I mean, even I feel like I'm spread too thin, and I'm like, what do I like? I don't even have a dog. Like the only thing I need to keep alive is obviously myself, but like my plants.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a cat that I take care of.
Yeah, you do.
So.
How's Spruce doing, by the way?
He's doing much better. So
Okay,
that
good.
was like another crazy part of this year is he went through a huge health scare at the beginning of this month. And yeah, just it's been a crazy month. But it is still a lot. So yeah, we're at whatever part of or area of your life that you're in, you can be spread too thin. I feel like as a college student, I felt that as well. I remember days in college when I would get out of class and I would still have like YouTube stuff to do or like something's going on at home, and I would just like actually have to scream in my car to like let something out.
Yeah.
But I say that, but also, as I was telling you this morning, I had prayed earlier in this year to be busier. I was like, okay, I would like
It's
a bit
funny
more
how
work.
that works, right?
It is, yep. I know you ask for more, and then
Yeah.
you get more, and it's like, wait, actually, maybe I don't want
Literally.
this. But I was like, okay, I want more work. I am tired of feeling worried about paying my rent every month. Like,
Yeah.
I thrive being busy. And also, I was at a place where I was working every day, but at the end of the day, I was like, did I do enough? I was constantly questioning that because with your own business and stuff, there's always more you can do, and you could always be doing something better. And so I would get to the end of the day and not feel accomplished. And I hated that feeling because I'm all the Enneagram stuff, like type 3, like achiever person, like that.
So funny that you bring that up because Kenzie was in here and she literally said the same thing.
Really?
Like we're all threes. That makes so much sense.
It's the quickest way to describe a personality type.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
you always want to do more, afraid of failure, dedicated to success, creative. Like the brain is always on. I don't know about you, but like my brain is always firing. There's always like a new idea that I could do, a new thing, a new venture. Like there's just always something.
Yeah.
And and I would agree. Like I feel spread thin all the time. And I do it to myself. I easily do it to myself.
It's so easy to do. But as I was saying, I feel like now that I have more on my plate, I get to the end of the day and I'm like, okay, I'm exhausted, but it feels good to like say I've accomplished a lot today. And even if I just get my part-time job work done, like that's great. And then, when I do my own stuff on top of that, it's like, okay, I've done enough, feel accomplished. And then that allows me to kind of unplug easier.
You've made so many big changes in the past couple months. How do you trust that they're the right decisions?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't think you can trust that they're the right decisions. You just have to go with the fact that they were the right decisions because now your life is going to keep going down that path no matter what. And it's going to be great no matter what. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
I think with certain things like breakups and stuff, you kind of can feel it in your gut of like, was this right? Or is this right? Is this person right for me? But with career stuff, I think it's a little bit different where you kind of just take the next step and see where it leads you. And so for me, I started my YouTube channel when I was like 11 years old. And so probably since 14, 15 years old, I always knew I was going to do something with social media. And this is the first year that I've kind of thought, okay, if I don't do YouTube and social media forever, like what would I do? And it's the first year that I started kind of not knowing what my future might exactly look like, which is very scary and very exciting at the same time because there's so many opportunities. But I feel like I would hear a lot of friends talk about that. They're like, I just don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know where I want to live or like who I want to meet. And I always had the relationship, I had the job, I had the career. And so like I never was asking myself those questions like in college. And I'm kind of realizing that and hitting that stage now, which is totally fine, but it is scary. And I think a lot of people our age are going through that.
Yeah. I think for me, something that I'm constantly like, I don't know, paralyzed by fear is the right word, but fear inserts itself into my brain on a daily basis. And for me, something that I just have to like surround myself with truth, whether that's like scripture or just telling a friend like, this is my thought, can you talk me off the ledge really quick? Is there anything that you do specifically to kind of overcome, I mean, because change is absolutely scary, you said it yourself. I was about to ask you, are you terrified? And you just said it's kind of scary, so it's like you read my mind there.
Yeah.
But is there something that you do to kind of help you through this scary, weird transition?
Yeah, whenever those thoughts come into my head of like, is this the right decision? Is this the right path? Like, am I doing the right job? Am I living in the right city? I kind of just remind myself that it's right for right now.
Oh, that's so good. I love that.
And because otherwise you'll spiral. It'll just be like, oh, I could move here. I could go there. I could start this business. I could have this job. Let me quit tomorrow. But I just tell myself, like, take it day by day. I think for me, since I am starting to question like where I want my future career to go, I know that this job, it's not going to be like a forever job, but it's teaching me things now that are going to help me find that forever job or like forever career. Same thing with doing YouTube for so long. When I started at age 11 or whatever, I didn't even think I'd be doing it for maybe a year, and look where it's taken me now. So you never know like where that next decision or that next step is going to lead you. And so I just remind myself that because it's so easy to get ahead and feel like you're behind. I think girls in our 20s and 30s always are saying that we're always behind in something, but you're really not. And it's okay.
Yeah. And I think too, just like looking at like everyone else's life, which is like, I'm so happy that we had, I mean, even this morning, like you and I both had such a transparent conversation. I haven't even told my parents this yet, but I might move home. Like my dad's always like, you can always move home. And like, I have my apartment in Annapolis, but I'm like, I'm living here. My sister's probably gonna go be with her boyfriend, probably soon to be husband. Fiance first, obviously. But like, it's all these things that like almost feel like backward steps, but it's like, no, like maybe that's what I need to do to be responsible, just like thoughtful, intentional. Like if I don't know where I'm supposed to move to when my lease is up with my sister, I live with my sister, by the way, if you guys are not listening. We live together, our lease is up in February. If I don't know where I'm going to move, if I don't know if I'm still going to want to be there in a year, like why would I stay there? Yeah. So I feel like pulled in a million different directions, but then I also am like, am I taking these backward steps? Am I actually moving forward by doing this? And it's this like push and pull. And I am just always concerned about what the internet might think. And I think that just stems from you and I both grew up on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know how the comments are now because I never watch YouTube anymore. But I remember people saying like, you know, you pour this glass of water wrong. Like just every little thing was wrong. Yeah. And so I think I'm always almost paralyzed by that, what will other people think? And that also comes from us being threes and like wanting to please people. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, what do you think about that? Is this like little voice in the back of your mind always concerned what other people are thinking?
Definitely. I think most people are worried about how they appear to others. And I just try to remind myself I'm more worried about myself than anyone else is. Like they're all worried about their own lives. But it's definitely hard, especially living online. Even if you don't have a huge social presence, just like, oh, your high school friends, what are they going to think? Or like your distant family, when they see this, what are they going to think? And I like how you brought up sometimes these life decisions feel like a step backwards. For me, in the past year and a half, 3 of my decisions kind of feel, in a sense, like they could be steps backwards. I know in January we talked about how last year I decided I didn't want to live alone anymore. Like I graduated college, moved out on my own, all independent, which is great. And I think that's a goal for a lot of people, but I hated living alone and working alone. And so I got a roommate again. And that's kind of like a step backwards in the sense of like your living space. And then with my relationship, we could have gotten married, and that's a huge step forward. And breaking up, I'm back to square one. Like,
are you dating these days?
No,
I'm not. No.
No,
the dating pool's rough.
Maybe the next podcast will have an update.
Okay, and 6 months from now,
say that's
potentially.
my next step. But for now, I'm just, I don't know. It still feels like so fresh and everything, and I just have all this new stuff going on with work and things, and so I'm like, it's easier just to wait till I'm fully ready. And but then with also a job, like going from fully self-employed, which again is an amazing goal that a lot of people have, and I was able to do that right out of college, then be like, oh no, I actually want to get a part-time job now, and that could also be seen as a step back. And so with all these decisions, I've definitely had that thought of like, are people going to think I'm a failure in this sense or that sense? But again, just having to remind myself that it's right for me, and what is typical in your life stages or like the path that most people take doesn't mean that you have to take that same path or like those same exact steps. And we all know life is not a straight path or a ladder. It's like zigzags all around. Yeah.
I mean, to even like all 3 of your, because I mean, when I hear other people talk about their problems, I can easily, or not even like problems, but like their circumstances, I can easily see like, oh, well, you getting a roommate is definitely the smart decision. A, you're probably saving money on rent, so like off the bat, like on paper, great. B, you probably have a friend to live with. Like you're not coming home to an empty, dark apartment. You're coming home to a friend. Like hopefully you guys are friends.
Yes, yeah,
like,
no, we're
like
great.
That is so much fun. And like I have always said I could never live alone. And I mean, I know a lot of people's goals are to live alone, and I think that, you know, I mean, if you have a condo or rent an apartment or own a house or whatever, like that's a great goal to have, no doubt about it. But I like have to be surrounded by someone, even if we can just sit in the living room and not talk. I crave community, and I don't think that we're supposed to do life alone. So like, I mean, I think that's like a step forward. As far as, you know, your breakup, like if that felt right, like that's a step forward, but it might feel like a step back. And then your job, you know, you have something else on your plate, which is cool and exciting. You're learning new skills, surrounding yourself with new people, earning something stable. Like that's something that we talked about this morning. Like it's, you know, we're in our early 20s trying to, you know, we're hustling, owning businesses, like doing all this stuff. It's never going to be stable. But to know that, okay, every Friday I'm going to get X amount in the bank, like I can budget accordingly, huge. Especially when it's like, it's crazy out there these days. Like, you know, you gotta earn a living somehow. So I mean, hearing you talk, I'm just like, no, not a step back. And so I always need to tell myself that, like, no one's really thinking that. They're probably just like, okay, cool. Like, no one cares about me as much as I care about me in the best way possible.
Exactly. Yes. And I think it's easier said than done. I know I had some friends move back home even this year from their big girl jobs and stuff, and they had the same fears. And so everyone's kind of fearing that. But I'm like, from the outside, it looks like you're doing what's best for you. And that's all I want for you is to be happy. And if you're in a situation or a city or a job that or a relationship that doesn't make you happy, then the best thing you can do is to change that. So.
Yeah. Well, and even it's just like the smart thing to do. Like I saw this graph and I couldn't repeat it because I don't know, but it was like the cost of living versus incomes. And it was animated and like the line was like pretty steady and, you know, good for a little bit. And then it was like 90s started to spike. Early 2000s started to spike even more. And then all of a sudden it was just like income down, housing up, and it's just so expensive to live. And so I think our generation statistically is living with our parents longer just because we have to.
Yeah. And I think we all understand that. I think our generation, like especially a few years before us, graduating during the pandemic and everything, it's like we all understand it's tough out here. And so I started taking away the shame of like, oh, I do like 3 jobs now to be able to live in Nashville, to being like, no, like I'm proud of myself for still being able to live out here and like doing what I need to do to make the money to live in a city that I want to live in. So it's kind of a mindset shift as well.
Yeah. And it's almost like you should be proud of the work that you're doing and like how hard you like want to be in Nashville and like how much you I don't know, it's like just like taking pride in everything that you do. I was sitting with a friend at coffee probably about a month ago and I was listing all the things that I do and he's like, well, no wonder you're so burnt out because you're doing a million things. I'm like, well, I feel like I have to. And then he was like, do you ever feel like you should just like zone in on one specific thing and like lock into that? And I was like, yeah, but then also what's the fun in that? And, you know, I mean, money aside, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm just always doing a million things. Yes. And I feel like you are too, to a degree.
We're very similar. I always said it was like the entrepreneurial spirit in me where you just get bored with one thing. If like you're like after a few years, I'm like, okay, what's the next idea? Like, what's the next thing? Even growing up, I played so many different sports. Like I said, like did softball and dance, like all the different things because I just wanted to try new stuff and would get bored in one and want to challenge myself. And I think that carries on into adulthood, probably with jobs and side hustles. You know, we're the generation of the gig economy, as they say. And so, yeah, we just like to dip our toes in a lot of different buckets and try new things, which I think is fine, especially for this time in our life. Like we have years and years and years to have something that's maybe more steady and stable. But for right now, let's try everything, figure out what we like, what we don't like, and have those choices and decisions made now rather than like when we're in our 40s or 50s.
Yeah, that's so true. Do you ever feel like you have one key purpose for your life? Or do you feel that's like such a loaded question?
Well, it's funny because I would always say, like I used to always think like it was with my content online and my stationery business to like help young women learn how to be organized and to manage their time. Because in college, like that was such a game changer for me when I learned how to manage my class schedule and side hustles and everything. And so for so long, that was kind of like my purpose is to share that empowerment with young women of like, you can take over your time and your schedule and you can do this and that and stay organized. And I think to an extent that has been and will be kind of what I love to share about just because it's been such a big part of my life. But also, I think I even said this actually in our January episode because I re-listened to it, but I think I kind of said like I feel like there's something new that's going to happen or something like a new life goal or a new purpose that I'm kind of asking God to reveal to me. And so I'm still kind of looking for that, but I feel like I've taken some steps outside of my bubble in business to be able to like pursue what that new thing could be. So
yeah. I feel like it just sounds like, and I feel like I just like get this energy from you. You're like on the cusp of like something really great. Oh. And no, I mean, because I feel like these big life changes and these big decisions, like as big as they are in the moment, they're really just like baby steps in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. And I just feel like you're like on the cusp of something really cool. And I don't know what it is. And I mean, you just said right. You don't know what. No, I I'm not saying I'm always right, but I feel like I'm right because I just think that you always have so much to offer, like no matter what room you walk into. And we've only met in person a handful of times. We like have been living almost in parallel to a degree for a while online, but I just feel like there's something really good for you around the corner. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like there is something.
Thank you. That means a lot. Wow, give me some hope.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I think when you make these big decisions, it's obviously intimidating, it's scary, and you're almost relearning like everything that you knew.
Like a new lifestyle.
Yeah.
As well. And I think this, again, going back to how at the beginning of this year, I was like, okay, I'm excited for the new year, but it's going to be a hard year because I knew there was a lot of push and pull, a lot of challenges, a lot of changes. And so I kind of had in my mind, okay, 2024 is going to be like the year of making these changes and pivoting certain areas of my life. And it's not always going to be fun. And I've had some great moments this year, but also a lot of ones that were very, very challenging. And so now coming to the end of this year, I'm hoping that going into 2025, I can kind of start seeing like the fruits of all of the challenges from the previous year and kind of like, okay, I put in the work then, and now we're going to like see the fruit of that.
Right.
So hopefully, yeah. And same for you too. I mean, you have some exciting changes coming up in your life as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I know. I feel like this year was like a big self growth year.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think like we're both on the cusp of something cool. So
I love that for us.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so you know that this whole podcast is dedicated towards women in their 20s. And I think I asked you this question probably last time as well. But if you could go back and tell your 22-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think what I said last time in January was to just like keep taking that next step, like put one foot in front of the other. You never know where it's going to lead you. Now, going off of like our conversation today, I think it's going to be to trust your gut.
Yeah.
Because with getting a new job, with the breakup and everything, I was trying to fight that gut feeling for so long because I didn't want it to be true. It'd be so much easier to just stay and keep doing what I was doing, stay in the relationship. It's really tough to initiate that kind of change in not only your life, but also another person's.
Yeah.
And eventually I was just like, okay, I can't stop like fighting this feeling inside me, this gut feeling.
Yeah.
And I find like I have to do something about it. And it felt like an immediate relief when the breakup was over. Like I feel bad saying that because I know it like wasn't maybe that way for him, but it kind of reminded me you do have to trust your gut. And then also like how the job kind of came in the next few weeks, I was like, okay, like this is like the reward from making that big decision. And like, now I know that was the right decision. And like, let me trust my gut on this next decision. And then the more you listen to yourself, and trust your gut, I feel like the easier it gets to discern what is yourself like saying.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's hard to, and I think a lot of times as women, we're maybe told or influenced not to trust yourself.
Yeah.
But
time.
you have to, because at the end of the day, like all you have is you. And so you gotta listen to what yourself is trying to say.
Oh, I love that. And that's something that I think that so many people struggle with, because you're being pulled in a million different directions. At least I feel pulled in a million different directions. And so when it comes to trusting your gut, is there any piece of advice, like anything tangible that you have done to really like get real with yourself? Because you said it would have been easier to stay in the same old, but that wouldn't have produced, like you said, the potential fruits that are coming from what this tough season was. So is there anything tangible that you did, whether it was like journaling, talking to a mentor, just crying in your car to like music, like anything that you did to really like get familiar with what that gut feeling sounds and feels like?
Yeah. Oh, it's tough. Definitely journaling. Obviously, I have a stationery brand that sells journals, so that's been a habit I've been doing for like 4 years now, and it's changed my life because you're writing, and your writing is like an expression of like your mind, like onto paper, obviously. And so like the more that you get it out and the more you get it on paper, you're able to like pick up on how you sound and like how you think. And you're not all just in your head, like you can physically see it in front of you. And so sometimes like you go back and you read those journal prompts and it sounds like a friend talking to you, but you're like, wait, that was actually myself like coming to those thoughts or giving myself advice. So journaling definitely is huge if you're not already doing it and you're trying to work through a big decision, whether it's changing a job, breakup, or something. Write, and it's so helpful. I know you talked about morning pages where you just like write for
it's been a while, but
okay. I don't do that every day, but when I had a lot on my mind, just like writing for 3 pages straight without picking up your pen is a super great way to just let your mind flow. Definitely talking to people, whether it's a therapist or friends and family, but that's also where you have to be careful because sometimes outside influences, they can start to become what you think are your thoughts and like what your feelings are, but you kind of have to like take people's advice with a grain of salt. And for me, with my faith, also just a lot of prayer as well, and like trying to find discernment in that, and like fostering that relationship with God, and then hearing his voice as well through it all. So
is there anything that you found that helps you to discern whether it's his voice or your own thoughts or the enemy's lies?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard.
Damn, that's like a loaded question.
I need like a pastor in here to answer that. I think journaling helps with that, because I'll find myself like journaling and writing from my perspective, and then all of a sudden it starts like becoming a prayer, and so then like I can kind of see the switch, and I'm like, okay, God's actually like coming in here, and like okay, let's maybe rethink this, or maybe that's not exactly what you should do. And so that happens a lot. And then I think it's also just a lot of staying connected with the church, or like having a small group, reading your Bible. Like that's how you are reminded of like God's presence a lot of times. And so when I'm like trying to just be too much on my own, it starts to feel very lonely when I'm like by myself. But then when I realize like I'm getting closer with God, I'll be alone but not feel lonely. And so
I love that.
Yeah.
I think for me, similarly, journaling is huge. Like even this morning, it just turned into a prayer. And I found that writing my prayers are almost easier than just trying to like sit there. I mean, if I'm praying out loud, then I'm good. I found myself, this is hilarious, because my younger sister mentioned that this happens to her, and I was like, oh, this happens to me too. I'll be praying before bed, and I'll have like my head on the pillow, and I'll be like, dear Heavenly Father, and then I'm like, oh, I'm falling asleep, and then I fall asleep.
Straight to
So I
sleep.
found that like writing my prayers or saying them out loud has been really helpful. But knowing that it's a still small voice, like his voice is always a still small voice. And when I get those intrusive thoughts of like, you shouldn't do that, or, you know, oh, like if you're going to do this, like, you know, or just like even like feeling fearful, I feel like I can, or I'm starting to, I'm definitely far from perfect, but starting to kind of pick up on what's from God versus what's from the enemy versus just what's my anxieties, and like, you know, or other people giving me bad advice. Because that's a very real thing, is friends will kind of tell you what they might want to hear, or, you know, I don't know, or like a worldly view of things, when really it's like we should just take it up, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And kind of what I was trying to say is like, I feel like when I'm closer to God and like spending more time in church, my Bible, small groups, all of that, it's easier to discern the voice of God.
So
but like
easier.
When I'm not doing the best in that regard, then it's easier to just like spiral, and all the thoughts are like jumbled in your head, and it's not as clear of a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I'm really feeling far from him, that's when I start to get overwhelmed, especially with like my thoughts, ideas, and my life path. And then I just realized, I'm like, oh, well, I haven't done my devotional this week, so no wonder I feel so scatterbrained, because I haven't actually spent quality time with him.
It's years like this when there's a lot of change, a lot of pivots, and then like I said, this past month I've just had a lot of things come up with health, with my cat Spruce, with family, and it's just scary, and like life is very tough. And that's when I'm so thankful that I have a faith that I can rely on and turn to. This whole year has kind of just been a reminder of how grateful I am for that. And that I have that foundation, because otherwise, like, I don't know how I would have gotten through some of the things. So
Hannah, well, thank you so much for coming on the pod today.
Thank you.
Go ahead and shout yourself out. Shout out Dream Daily. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so my personals are all Hannah Ashton. My Instagram's Miss Hannah Ashton. And then shopdreamdaily.com or Shop Dream Daily on Instagram and TikTok is where you can shop all of the stationery items. Perfect for the holidays. I will just plug that they make great gifts. They're very beautiful.
Great gifts.
High quality, and then you'll be able to get ready for the new year. So start 2025 off strong with a new planner, new journal, all the things. So.
I use my my dreamer journal for my church notes. That's like my church notes notebook, because the paper is I don't know what you picked for the paper, but it's amazing.
It's a high GSM is like the term, but like at the thickness.
It's a cool piece of paper.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I love it. So anyway, get your dreamer journals, your planners and everything for the new year to get prepped. Do you have like, it's undated. I was about to ask you if 2025 stuff out, but it's all undated.
It's all undated, so you can start it whenever.
Yeah, I love it. It's beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hannah. It's great having you back on the pod. Come back soon. You're welcome anytime.
I love it here. Thank you.